that hypermasculinity and stereotypes can't be the reason for a withholding of emotion and a withholding of comfort. And it was just very warming to my heart to see these two gentlemen be able to comfort each other and love each other and do it despite cameras watching, despite people feeling like that was the time for a good punchline. One announcer who was making an announcement for the game who did not know, in all fairness, the announcer didn't know that Alcuna's mom had passed. So as everyone is watching this embrace during the live simulcast of the game, the announcers heard saying something to the effect of, "Oh, so these two are giving each other head massages and comforting each other during the game." When in actuality, what was happening was comfort was being given from one human being to another for the loss of a loved one. So listen, if you haven't seen the clip, I implore you, please watch the clip. It was just really heartwarming to me. And it was really, again, I just love it when we can get past the myths that are associated with masculinity and what is proper and improper acts of behavior of comfort between two men. So, regardless of their sexuality. So I just thought that it was beautiful. I actually had people who I follow on Instagram who were making kind of crude and unusual jokes about this situation. And I think a lot of times laughter is a way for people to deal with things that they are not comfortable with. And so for that reason and that reason alone, I'm not going to delete these people. But what I will say is this. There is a time and place for jokes. And, listen, if you think that if you are bothered by men, regardless of their sexuality, embracing each other in moments of comfort, then perhaps this isn't the show for you and I am not the woman for you, okay? Because I don't have a problem with any of those things. And actually what I do have a problem with is the patriarchal, misogynistic, culture that our society, especially people of color, seem to embrace, because it is not only toxic, that masculinity that wields its way around our society, but it's actually destroying us. It's destroying our culture, whether or not we choose to admit it. Hyper masculinity is truly destroying our culture. And our culture, I mean that specifically of people of color. It is destroying our families. It is destroying our culture. It is destroying our interrelations, just the way that we relate between one another. So, I don't have room for that in my life, and hopefully you don't either. Some other good news. So, how do y'all feel about a Living Single reboot? How do y'all feel? I'm on the fence with this. Listen, I know they've talked about a Martin reboot. They've talked about a lot of reboots. I feel like there are so many talented writers and people out there who just want the opportunity to be able to give us the kind of shows that we want to see. And unfortunately, because we're so busy living in the past, wanting to reboot everything sometimes, I think that keeps us away from shows that might be worthy to reboot 10 years from now if we just allow them to flourish today. I think we get really bogged down by rebooting classics and reinventing the wheel. I love Living Single, but I just don't know if we need a reboot. But listen, you guys are welcome to weigh in. It is happening right now. Let the people know what you want to see. Okay, so what else do we have going on? We have not spoken since this new Drake album, you guys. We have not spoken at all. And I just want you to know that I personally speaking, I think she slayed it. Okay, that's just personally speaking to me. I think she slayed it. Now, Drake has since become the first artist to to generate more than $1 billion. I want to say $1 billion. And I could be exaggerating that number. Don't quote me on that. But I believe that he's become the first artist to generate $1 billion downloads in totality. So I'm really, really happy for him. I think the album is amazing. Speaking of albums, Travis Scott is dropping an album, as well as one of my personal favorites, YG, who is, y'all, do we think that YG is cute? I have a thing for him. I don't know what it is. I have a thing for YG. I don't know. I love him. I think he's a little cutie on duty. I like his style, and I really don't know what he sings, but I like his style. So both of those gentlemen will be dropping an album. I don't know if and when I'll listen, but let's reconvene on that. What's your favorite track on the Drake album? Mine, personally speaking, is 8 out of 10. Is that what it's called? And Nonstop. Those are two of my personal favorites. I believe Nonstop is going to be his next single off the album. And I also, now listen, I don't know what you guys have heard about this, but do you guys know record producing giant and heavyweight, no pun intended, The Dream. The Dream, he actually sold off 75% of his music catalog for $23 million. Now, what this means is that basically The Dream does not own the rights at this point to some of his music catalog, which includes Umbrella, Single Ladies, Baby by Justin Bieber, and Touch My Body by Mariah Carey, which Touch My Body is a touch my body. Yes, honey. Touch My Body is a bop. Okay. So I don't know why The Dream is selling off all his music catalog, and $23 million seems to be a low amount of, like a low dollar amount. No, I mean, for me, I barely have I don't know if I have $230 in my savings account right now. I don't know. So $23 million is big for me. But when we talking about regular, we regular, we not regular though. Don't get it twisted. But when we talking about celebrity status money, I mean, $23 million is nothing. Touch My Body by itself is worth $23 million. So the fact that this man would sell it and sell Single Ladies and sell Umbrella and sell a host of other music for just $23 million, it makes me feel like, is he in a financial crunch? Who knows? But I'm not crying for him, Argentina, because I ain't even got half of that. Okay? Okay, so have any of you gone to see Jay-Z and Beyonce on the Run Part 2? I have not gone to see it. I felt like listen, I'm not going to lie to you, okay? Because we are too much of good Judies for me to be lying to you. Here's the tea. I love Beyonce. I know that she has to bring Jay-Z with her because he cannot be left by himself to his own devices. Because next thing you know, we're going to be getting the whole Lemonade Stand and not just the picture. We're going to get the whole fucking Lemonade Stand album because this nigga don't know how to act. So I know that she had to bring him on tour with her, but I just feel like, oh God, I just didn't want to see them again. I love Beyonce, and I'd love for her to drop a new album for us, and I'd love to see her by herself. I've gone to a Jay-Z concert. I've gone to a Beyonce concert. I've never been to see On the Run. But I think between social media and the internets, we've pretty much seen the entire On the Run tour. So tonight they're due to be playing in New York City, New York City adjacent, because they actually are not doing a show in New York City. They're only doing shows at MetLife Arena. So that's kind of odd to me, and that kind of left me to wonder, was there some sort of clause between Jay-Z and the beautiful people of the Brooklyn Nets and that arena? Because it just is odd to me that they wouldn't play Brooklyn. I know they're doing outdoor stadiums, but I mean, the Yankees Stadium was an option. Met Stadium was an option. You didn't have to just do MetLife Arena, but I digress. All right, so you guys, there's been a lot of crazy shit going on in the news. Can we talk about it? First of all, for all you bitches that love to swipe right on these fine niggas, never trust a big dick and a smile, okay? Never. Never trust a big dick and a smile. That man is poison. Speaking of a man being poisoned, Danueal Drayton of Connecticut. Well, he's actually of New York City, but he was adopted by a Connecticut family. Danueal Drayton, who is 27 years old, is now being held in a Los Angeles prison for having murdered a young nurse here in New York. I want to say her name was Samantha Stewart, out of Springfield Garden, New York. So several weeks ago, Danueal's body was found wrapped up in a sheet by her brother and her father. She was murdered by a man that she met on Tinder. That's right, kids, on Tinder. So before you go swiping right, let me just like to hear it go. Danueal, who suffers from bipolar disorder 2 and schizophrenia, Danueal went out on a date with, I don't know if her name is Sharon Stewart or Samantha Stewart, and please forgive me for not having the correct information, but I do believe that her name is Samantha Stewart, 29, out of Springfield Garden. So she goes out on a date with this man, first date. She brings him back to her house. Now, we're not judging. We're just telling you what happened. He claims that they went to a racetrack, which I'm sure they probably went to the racetrack out in Queens. And they shared an artichoke pizza. And he then went back with her, accompanied her to her house. It is not known at this time if they engaged in any physical activity, whether it was consensual and or forced. What we know at this time is that she was murdered, and she was murdered with a blunt force object to her head, as well as her teeth being pulled out and her tongue. Her father and her brother found her dead after she failed to report to work, and concerned co-workers felt the need to check in on her because it was out of the character of her normal behavior. Now, mind you, when this murder took place, this was 2 weeks after Danueal was arrested and released on domestic violence charges that stemmed from an incident between him and his now ex-girlfriend out in Long Island, where he was arrested for choking her with both hands, domestic violence charge. The judge released him on his own recognizances without bail, to which 2 weeks later, Samantha Stewart was then murdered. After Danueal murdered Samantha, and I hope that that is her name, Miss Stewart, after he murdered her, he then stole her credit card as well as her vehicle, used her credit card to buy himself a one-way ticket to Los Angeles, where he then met a young lady in an Uber pool. Him and this young lady then proceeded back to her apartment, where he then raped, sodomized, and beat this young lady up for 2 days, as well as held her captive in her home forcibly. Kids, I am telling you this story because Danueal is now being held and possibly being held on the murders of more than 7 people, which include a Bronx man. He has several domestic violence charges against him, all the way ranging back to 2011. And the reason why I feel it prudent to share this information with all of us is that I think that many people think that crimes like this being domestic violence, crimes like this being rape, assault against women, I think that a lot of people think to themselves, that happens to ordinary people. That doesn't happen to people like me. I can tell you from my own personal experience that I definitely can be counted as one of those people who would associate those things in my past as something that just happens to others.